please.
Yeah, just two more questions that have been put up. The second one says, firing the whole police force and customs shows courageous leadership. However, doing this immediately must have created a vacuum in services and security and skill gap. How did you mitigate this in the short, medium, and long term? And then the third one says, what role did budgeting and budgetary discipline play in your government's reform program?
Yes, first one, yeah, it was a problem, but as I said, police was part of, we had organized crime in Georgia. So organized crime cannot really flourish without police cooperation. That's very obvious. And for instance, like the way how our prisons were directed, all crime was directed from prisons. I was Minister of Justice before, and I saw this system firsthand, and I couldn't change it. And the way how it was that criminals were paying the heads of prisons. The head of prison, all the guards were on payroll of criminals. So what it allowed them is that for criminals from their prison cells, first of all, they could get unlimited supply of drugs there, gambling money, prostitutes, whatever. But besides, they were directing from prison over their cell phones crime everywhere, and they were like center for crimes. So in a way, it was a very corrupted and merged system. And there were lots of kidnappings, and police were part of it. So it was so bad that it couldn't get any worse, that is to say. So yeah, of course it's a problem, but even traffic police really didn't go after violators. Traffic police were standing at certain points waiting for cars to pass by to take money as a levy. So when we had cameras, and cameras would send them fines instead of policemen, and that would be a much better system than what you had. With regards to budgetary discipline, yes, it was important. We made sure that we kept also burden of state expenses not to go over a certain percentage. That's very important, because when it goes over a certain percentage, it starts to suppress private business. It's a tight balance. On the one hand, especially in the times of economic crisis, you have to spend and spend and spend on infrastructure. It's obvious. As I said, we built up to 6,000 kilometers of road in Georgia. It's a small country, and it's lots of roads. You had to do those things, tunnels, new things. But on the other hand, make sure that every time we would into some kind of business, exactly like your governor was describing, you go build a road, and you know that greenhouses and the agricultural worker, farmers on both sides benefit from this road, and you know why you are building it, what kind of gross effect it would have for the country. And with regard to budget, we basically did private tax collectors, and a tax service, it stayed small, and so a new tax service acted more as an advisor to taxpayers, which is to say, we told them, look, if you don't want to deal with this vicious tax collector who gets percentage for taxes collected, we advise you better how to deal it in normal way. So we changed the philosophy how taxes were paid. Look, we are a country that's very much similar to your tradition, but also Georgia is has lots of Asian roots, but also Southern European country. People don't like to pay taxes. They don't like any government that wants them to pay taxes. So the way how we do it, you change mentality. People in Georgia also never like to have seat belts fastened, but somehow we manage, and now everybody fastens it, even with the change of government. I'm sure they voted for the new government because they thought they would never have to fasten it again, but it became a habit. So in a way, you change mentality. You tell people, this money is yours money, but it's spent for good means. And you give good example that this money is not taken away. So somehow, and that you also do it through budgetary discipline. Without budgetary discipline, people see that this money is just thrown away for God knows what. It's very hard, because every time it's in a democracy. Okay, we brought up tourists and we told them, now we built several new airports. We need this new luxury airport. Not everybody understands it, because most of the people don't go on these big flights abroad. Over half of the population would never use this airport. So for them, it was a luxury. Or you want to boost some city, you invite a big performer to sing. And people say, oh, government spends money for their own entertainment. Very hard to explain why we have to bring this singer or this pop star to sing, because it will boost tourists by another 100,000 people next year. They will not see the result. Or to change the mentality. For instance, I'll tell you this small story. We have beautiful city of Batumi, which really is if you look at, go into internet, you'll see Batumi in the Black Sea. It started to look like very much like Singapore 5, 6, 7 years ago, or Hong Kong like 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, very fast mushroom, lots of new businesses. So we had to rebuild the entire city center. So here we are. My government had to invest money and then to bring private business. But somehow, like 500 or so families got entirely new houses. So there was this slum. We invested into new water and sewage system all over the city, but especially there. So there was this woman who had one-storied slum, but because she was in such a touristic place, we built her three-storied house. So I pass by there, and she's sitting in front of her house in a small chair. She's in her early 40s maybe, and she tells me, "Oh, I love you, President. I was living in this slum. You built me a three-storied house. This street had no asphalt. No, not only it's lit up, it has so beautiful, it's clean. Of course, we have crowds now. It's not so comfortable as the tourists come, but still, it's beautiful, beautiful street. Beautiful lights. Lots of people coming. I have this wonderful big house." And then she looks so, "I love you." And then without pausing, she said, "After doing so many good things for us, maybe you can also take care of us poor people." And frankly, I had this reaction. First instinct I had, pull out this chair from her legs and said, "You woman, go and work now, right?" But then I start to understand her. And you start to understand her and to say, she is coming from old system. She never knew how to adjust. So you cannot oblige her. Okay, now you have new house, open a hotel here. She doesn't know where to get credit, how it works. There was a big rally of people who defaulted on their bank loans last year against me as president. They said, until he became president, we never knew what were banks or what were their loans and what was mortgage. And you can understand these people as well, because you take mortgage and then you take responsibility, and it comes with mentality. And this woman was never trained to be, she was living in her slum, and she was never trained to be a hotel owner or, tourist manager or anything. Government, and I noticed the government was talking about retraining people and teaching them skills. Without that, just even giving benefit, especially giving them for free, is counterproductive, because then first, it's a human nature. You always know more, want more, but then you never really know how to use it unless there is something else coming with it, knowledge and know-how. And I'm sure that's why, by the way, you have natural advantage of having mastering of English. We brought 10,000 Americans to teach English in Georgia within 4 years, 10,000. And the way how we did it, I have a good friend in Holland who all his life, he's now in his 40s, all his life going abroad teaching English. He gets repatriated from time to time with strange diseases back home. His parents hate him because the guy is idle and has nothing to do, but from their standpoint. But I said, if there's one crazy guy like that, there should be much more. So we made this call, and lots of people came, volunteer. We give them small pocket money, but not more than. And, a change of culture, because you also need to open your country for foreign countries. Because if you have in the morning this young lady from America, say, jogging in a rural area in Georgia, well, she might be of another skin color as well, and all these villagers look at her, and then all the dogs in the neighborhood chasing her, because people don't wake up so early normally there, and don't jog, especially in the rural areas, right? It brings another culture and outlook of the world. She's not only bringing her teaching skills, she's bringing her culture and her understanding, and giving people. So that's what you also need to bolster when you do reforms, when you need to open up, and I'm sure that's exactly what you are doing. Yeah.
A final question says, what would you do or would have done differently if you look back?
Yes, we would have invested much more in education. I know how much Nigerians aspire to education, and that's my biggest. We put lots of money in education, but we had presidential fund. We sent for up to 5,000 people only for presidential stipends abroad. It's a lot for a country, as I said, 5 million. But we should have put apart all the other things, and we should have sent all students abroad, and it's doable. We needed to, or bring all these professors from abroad very fast. We did American Technology University, we should have, because ultimately education, that's what contributes, as you well know, to mentality change most of all. By the way, yesterday I was flying with Nigerian Airlines, Air Air, and went through the saloon, and lots of people were reading books. It's a very, which you don't usually see on most of the Western airliners. And that's, by the way, I know how much people aspire. They understand it. When I did my government initially, these were a bunch of young people, newly educated in good universities. They were smart. They looked beautiful. They looked like Ocean 11, if you remember the movie. They were as daring and adventurous as Ocean 11. But for that adventurous spirits to be sustainable, you need education. And that's what I'm looking in retrospect and telling our people once we are back, when we should certainly invest much more in education, just silence all of the other expense, because that's ultimately the longest lasting legacy we can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Thank you. Whilst His Excellency was up here, the Governor of Ogun State arrived in our midst. Let's put our hands together and welcome His Excellency, Mr. Ibikunle Amosun. You're welcome.